So in this video we're going to use inlays on furniture. First thing we're going to do is take this hardware off this piece because it's really not all that pretty. So I'm starting by using Sandy Blonde. It's a nice creamy tannish color, and we're actually going to put another color on this, but we're going to start off with the Sandy Blonde. And this paint is VOC free, no smells, no odors, excuse me. And for this whole piece, this dresser, I used this 8-ounce container, and I still had some left over. After covering the base of this with the one coat, I did add a second coat just to make sure, because it's a light color, you always want to do 2 coats anyways, but I did give it a second coat. Now we're going to put the inlays on this piece of furniture, but before I did that, I wanted to add that other color, which is tarnished pearl, and it really is a pretty light pearly color. So to put the inlays on the piece of furniture, whatever it is that you're working on, you have to put it on wet paint. So this is where you have to work in sections with your paint, as the paint can tend to dry quickly. Now what's great about these sheets here, this is called rose sheets. Oh, I can never say that word correctly. They have grids in the back, so it makes it easier to cut. So once you put on your paint, you put the inlay on top of that wet paint with the design part on the paint in the grid facing you. You then spray it with a little bit of water, and then you just pat it down with a nice soft cloth. So the thing with this is sometimes it takes a few minutes for the pattern to transfer onto the furniture, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer, like an hour or so. I found that I pulled this one away too quickly at first, and I had to just pat it back down and let it stay on there for a little longer. And the longer you leave it on, the more intense the pattern will be. The quicker you take it off, you know, it's more faded. But I kind of liked having both of those looks on this dresser, because I did want this dresser to look like a dresser that, you know, had paint coming off of it and it was old, and you know, it just in the end, you'll see, it gives it a really pretty romantic look when it's not so cohesive. The great thing about these sheets is that you can use them more than once. They are not a one-time use. I've actually used some of them like 3 or 4 times. And when you do that, what happens is you just get a more faded look. And eventually they won't work anymore, but you can use them more than once, and I think that's great. So for the mirror of this dresser, I painted it tarnished pearl, not using the sandy blonde at all. I think it'll be a nice contrast once the mirror and the dresser is back together. So after putting the paint down, and remember to use it while the paint is still wet, I just cut up strips of that inlay sheet and I put it on the trim of the mirror, and once it's ready to be pulled back, whether it's a few minutes or a little bit longer depending, the pretty little roses and flowers were just left behind. So I did distress the mirror, and I did also distress in certain areas the dresser, just to give it that more old look. Okay, so we're getting there, almost to the end. So what we did to the front of the dresser, we're also going to do to the side. We're going to apply some of that tarnished pearl and then just add the paper, spritz, pat dry, and pull it off after a little bit. So now for the hardware. We changed out the hardware, and I'm going to use these that you see right here. I like them a lot better than the ones that were originally on the dresser. Problem is, they are the wrong color. So we're just going to go over them with sandy blonde, and we are going to seal these too at the end. And then we're just going to put them on the dresser. I think they'll look a lot better than what was on there. So now it's time to switch out the hardware that's on the top. There were small little wooden pulls. I decided that I wanted to put these really pretty glass pulls. I think it completes the romantic, faded, old vintage look that I was going for with this piece. Also, we want to go over the pulls that we put on the bottom that we switched out. And I did add a little bit of tarnished pearl here, but in the end I ended up going over them again with the sandy blonde. And the reason you did have to go over these again, even though they were painted, is because I wanted to make sure to paint the screws that we used to put the pulls on this piece, because they were black and we wanted to match the pulls. So now it's all one color. So the very last step is to seal it, and I'm going to use wax on this piece right here, and that's pretty simple. We're just going to grab a wax brush. I usually like to use a cloth, but because this is a bigger piece, I am going to use a wax brush. And these are Paint Pixie brushes, by the way, if you're wondering. And I'm just going to wax this whole piece from front to side, and also the mirror. And you don't have to worry, you can wax over those pretty little inlays that you use on the piece. And that's just about it. That's all I have. So if you would like to see more videos from me, please subscribe and hit that notification button. I always forget to say it. Remember this time. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.